This is the Math of War, and today we're going to take a little departure from our usual subject matter and just look at a particular individual, namely Julius Caesar, and specifically the first few paragraphs of his account of his wars in Gaul. And we have to take his account with a grain of salt in that he was a politician, he was extremely shrewd, and his account is, at least in large part, a piece of propaganda. However, he was providing at least some factual account of his time in Gaul, and we can discern, even if we understand that it's propaganda to a large degree, we can still discern at least what he considered to be relevant material to pass along, things to focus on. And so with that little preface, I wanted to just let us listen to a portion of the beginning of Caesar's wars in Gaul. As you're listening, take note of what Caesar feels is relevant to pass along, including information about the people of the region, including Caesar's interpretations of their character and motivation, his take on the relationships between those tribes, the leader of one of those tribes, and the geography and its influence. Let's take a listen.
All Gaul is divided into three parts, one of which the Belgae inhabit, the Aquitani another, those who in their own language are called Celts, in ours Gauls, the third. All these differ from each other in language, customs, and laws. The river Garonne separates the Gauls from the Aquitani, the Mon and the Seine separate them from the Belgae. Of all these, the Belgae are the bravest, because they are furthest from the civilization and refinement of our own province, and merchants least frequently resort to them, and import those things which tend to render the mind effeminate, and they are the nearest to the Germans, who dwell beyond the Rhine, with whom they are continually waging war, for which reason the Helvetii also surpass the rest of the Gauls in valor, as they contend with the Germans in almost daily battles, when they either repel them from their own territories, or themselves wage war on their frontiers. One part of these, which it has been said that the Gauli occupy, takes its beginning at the river Rhone. It is bounded by the river Garonne, the ocean, and the territories of the Belgae. It borders, too, on the side of the Sequani and the Helvetii, upon the river Rhine, and stretches toward the north. The Belgae rises from the extreme frontier of Gaul, extend to the lower part of the river Rhine, and look toward the north and the rising sun. Aquitania extends from the river Garonne to the Pyrenean mountains and to that part of the ocean which is near Spain. It looks between the setting of the sun and the North Star. Among the Helvetii, Augetorix was by far the most distinguished and wealthy. He, when Marcus Messala and Marcus Piso were consuls, incited by lust of sovereignty, formed a conspiracy among the nobility, and persuaded the people to go forth from their territories with all their possessions, asserting that it would be very easy, since they excelled all in valor, to acquire the supremacy of the whole of Gaul. To this end, he the more easily persuaded them, because the Helvetii are confined on every side by the nature of their situation, on one side by the Rhine, a very broad and deep river, which separates the Helvetian territory from the Germans, on a second side by the Jura, a very high mountain, which lies between the Sequani and the Helvetii, on a third by the Lake of Geneva, and by the river Rhone, which separates our province from the Helvetii. From these circumstances it resulted, that they could range less widely, and could less easily make war upon their neighbors, for which reason men so fond of war were affected with great regret. They thought, that considering the extent of their population, and their renown for warfare and bravery, they had but narrow limits, although their territory extended in length 355 kilometers, and in breadth 265 kilometers.
That's the end of this reading. A couple of quick reflections. Caesar provides us a first-hand account. And as such, we're getting access to information that not only isn't available to us today, but is information that wouldn't have been available to most people alive at that time, because there would have only been a handful of people who were in daily contact with Caesar to the degree that they could understand some of his thoughts and the way that he processed through battlefield decisions or higher level strategic decisions and so on. So we're getting very special information here, even if it is filtered through the lens of propaganda. Other such firsthand accounts are out there, and I would encourage you to track them down. So, for instance, the victorious commander in the United States Civil War, U.S. Grant penned a memoir, and then Winston Churchill provides a very thorough and highly detailed account of his time during World War II and the many decisions that he was involved in making. And again, someone even alive at that time and someone even close to Churchill at that time would not have had access to at least some of his thoughts in as direct a manner as we get when we get a firsthand account. So, with all that being said, I hope you have enjoyed our aside today, and I will look forward to doing other such asides in the future. In the meantime, in our next video, we'll get back to the core material of the Math of War series, and I will look forward to seeing you there.